So I got another question in Discord about the nature of the Entropic Empire's relationship with the Abstract Council and the treaty. So I decided to do another video on it to give a little bit more context to the lore in that space. I have a timeline right here that I put together, and if you see me periodically looking down at the screen, it's because it's a lot there and I need my notes in front of me to get it all in. Now, I'm not going to give full details about all of the timeline. There's things in the timeline that I can't cover just in the space of this video, and you'll find a lot of that out as you continue to read through the story of the series. But let's get started. So the Entropics, they've been around for an untold amount of eons. And they wind up rising to prominence in their galaxy thanks to their physical strength, durability, and more importantly, control over entropic force energy. And as their civilization got more advanced and their technology grew, they eventually mastered interstellar space travel and outer stellar space travel. So that's when they begin to colonize their part of their home galaxy. And they would basically invade and take worlds from their native inhabitants and crush competing civilizations and even exterminate entire species. And the ones they didn't exterminate, they pretty much enslaved and put them under their heel as part of their empire. And this expansion took place for a long time unabated. And they settled into their role as the most dominant species in that galaxy. But all good things come to an end, and they started to get reports of the outskirts of their empire being attacked by some mysterious, monstrous creature. Well, at first, they thought this was just rumor and innuendo, but turned out, no, it was a real thing. They were being attacked by a hive mind, ridiculously powerful creature, swarm of creatures called the Velan. And basically what the Velan do is they swarm galaxies and they ransack planets, hollow them out, and then go on to the next one. And the Entropics at some point realized, no, we have to defend our empire. This is not a rumor. These things are actually happening. So they set out, of course, to push the Velan back. But the problem is the Velan was not only bigger, stronger, more savage, more vicious than the Entropics were, they also had a resistance to entropic force energy. And this is a big deal because this is like one of the major abilities that allowed the Entropics to be so dominant for so long. And now that's taken off of the table. So the fight lasted for centuries. And as try as they might, the Entropics could not push them back. And they made more inroads into the galaxy, until finally most of the entropic worlds were decimated, and the one that was left was their home world, Necros Prime. And of course the Velan came to swarm that. And the Entropics put up a hell of a fight there because this is their home world, so now they have an extra motivation to defend it. And after a few centuries of bloody, brutal, savage warfare, it became clear that the Entropics were just overmatched. And once the Lord Entropy of that era and his wife were killed, and a lot of the kids of the monarchy were killed, they realized they had to leave that world. And the only ones of the monarchy that was left was Lord Entropy and his twin brother Talik, and they were just kids. So the Entropics evacuated Necros Prime, and they flew out a little bit and then destroyed their home world, thinking that because the planet was now infested, every square mile of the planet was infested by the Velan, they figured if we destroy the planet, we'll destroy our enemy along with it. And that was a sacrifice they was willing to make. So they did. And then they began this arduous journey, roughly 1,000 years through an area of space referred to as the super void. Before they got there, they had to literally see all of the worlds that they once had control over, just useless, desiccated husk, right? And, in this 1,000 or so year period. And the reason I say 1,000 or so year period is because we don't really have a strict timeline for that, because the Entropics are very secretive about their history, and a lot of it is shrouded in myth. So you take what you can, and as the story goes on, more things will be revealed in that regard. But as they went through the super void, in this area of space, there are no planets. There is no haven for them. And they literally just was out there, lost, basically. But finally, after a while, they did enter the Centauri galaxy, and they started coming across planets. These planets were inhabited, and they basically did what they had done in their previous galaxy. Time to start over. So they started to invade these planets. Now, a lot of these early worlds were no match for the Entropics. They were primitive in comparison to them as far as their technology, and they just didn't have the power, the raw power, to compete with them. So a lot of those civilizations were wiped out completely, and their population exterminated. And the Entropics continued to do this for a while, and it wasn't until certain reports started to come to some of the more advanced civilizations in the Centauri galaxy, where they realized there was a threat that could potentially encompass the entire galaxy proper. So what they then decided to do was, okay, the Culex sent forces to attempt to push the Entropics back, and that didn't work out well for them at all. And soon a lot of these other civilizations started to realize, yo, we can't, one nation can't tackle them. We have to form an alliance, and then we'll have the numbers advantage against them. Also, the technology from civilizations like the Extropians was extremely advanced, and the Culex, their technology was advanced as well, just not to the same level as the Extropians. So when you start talking about, I'll give you the list of some of the species that formed together to push back the Entropics. You had the Culex, the Extropians, the Aeonians, the Lycos, the Termaxian Alliance, the Carillion Republic, and a whole bunch of other member states that formed this abstract alliance to push back the Entropics. And when they did that, they started having better success in these battles, and the Entropics were taking heavy losses and heavy hits. Fight continued, and eventually what wound up happening is there was an equilibrium that was struck, and it started a kind of stalemate. And Lord Entropy, who at this time was an adult and was running the empire, he realized that this was a fruitless endeavor. It got to a point where they could not defeat this alliance, and this alliance could not defeat them, and all they were going to wind up doing is taking heavy losses and continue to take these losses until there was nothing left of either of these member nation states. So he eventually did approach the Abstract Council and signed a treaty of non-aggression and coexistence with them. But he did not join the Abstract Council. He refused to bring the Entropics in to the council. He just signed that treaty, and hostilities ended. Now, there were still some skirmishes that would happen here and there, but for the most part, over the next few years, it was peace. And even to the point where the Entropics started trading a little bit with some of the other nations there and getting to learn a little bit more about their neighbors in this new galaxy. So everything seemed to be winding down as far as hostilities. People were building up again and getting their things together, and the unthinkable happens. The Velan reemerge, and they start swarming the Centauri galaxy. As it turns out, the Entropics blowing up their homeworld did not stop the swarm. It's just too many of them, and they're too powerful. And as they start swarming through the Centauri galaxy, they attacked indiscriminately. It didn't matter what civilization it was, from the Extropians to the Culex to the Aeonians. They were basically taking down worlds. And the Entropics were especially traumatized by this because their interaction with the Velan completely altered the course of history of their entire civilization and species. So they were shook, despite all the bravado and the power and the warlike mentality. They were definitely shook. And Lord Entropy knew there is no way that they would be able to defeat the Velan. They couldn't. His father and mom couldn't defeat the Velan before, so why would he think he could do it? So he went to the Abstract Council and he formed an alliance with them, and together, all of them managed to be able to hold their own against the Velan. Now, there's more to that story than that, but it involves things that are going to be in the negative issue backstories that we kind of want to keep tucked for now. But a lot of it is just to give you a sample of the type of information that will be in those stories. You will see how Lord Entropy and Grav Extropia wind up becoming allies and then friends, and all of that. You'll even see how Lord Entropy's wife died. So it's a lot of things in that those negative issues. So be sure to look out for those. But I hope that answers your questions about the Abstract Council. And by the way, the issue 0, for those who don't know, issue 0 is out. You can get it in PDF form or physical. We still got some physical copies left. And also coming up soon, we are going to be launching the Kickstarter for issue 1, which is the next issue in the series, Clash of Consequences. So once we're ready to do that, I will give you guys further information on that as we move along. But anyway, thanks for listening. I hope this clears up some things for you, and I hope it sparks more questions because of it. And I'll talk to you guys later.